Hey everybody. In the scripting of this video, I didn't know what kind of vibe to go with. Basically, there's a lot surrounding the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy that bothers me. When I go on social media and I read utterly delusional comments or comments that try to downplay or manipulate a narrative, or just comments that are downright ignorant and malicious at the same time, it annoys me. Especially when it comes from big content creators who think of themselves to be some kind of highly enlightened specimen who is so above it all, so above these trifles that people have with these games, who know everything there is to know of what is going on in the industry and with these particular games, and have the ultimate take, the veritable truth of it all, condensed down to a one-sentence gotcha such as "you control the buttons that you press," or some ultimate sentence encompassing the world's entire wisdom about how all of the people criticizing and mocking Assassin's Creed Shadows are all just forcing it, just to have something to hate on, despite the game actually being amazing, or fabricating reasons to be mad at the game when in reality being mad at it for other underlying reasons that have nothing to do with the game. And the reason why it annoys me so much is that it's so far from the actual truth of what is going on, but there's no dialogue between people at all. And in order to articulate it, you can't just do it in a tweet or even in a separate post. Not only is it a whole load of reasons that would take forever to type down onto it, but also nobody's going to be reading long posts or tweets like that, much less the people who these replies or posts are meant to be for. People such as the mighty Keef, who is basically the patron saint of takes on Twitter, and people like the Actman who, well, I mean, I don't even have to say anything further besides I already did last year on this video, and the same situation still stands. He still keeps running away from actually talking about these matters earnestly and looking past the surface. In fact, in one of these tweets, I did write a reply, which in my opinion wasn't even that lengthy, and the responses I got for it were trying to shame me for writing a novel. Maybe it's because I'm used to scripting 30+ minute videos like this, but honestly this doesn't look that long at all. It's basically 5 paragraphs. If 5 paragraphs is really that much for you that it represents a novel, you are cooked. Leave it to these kinds of people for clapping like seals whenever someone drops a one-liner that says really nothing at all except for shilling for whatever game or TV show or whatever that they're simping for that day, and getting mad and rowdy whenever someone actually is writing something substantial to back up an argument. So yeah, really the only way to get at these issues is to stop, write the response in a notepad, and format it as a video. So that's what this is. So, what is actually the problem with Assassin's Creed Shadows? What is actually the issue here? Are these morons right? Are people talking shit about Shadows a bunch of racists or retards, manufacturing fake outrage? Has Ubisoft always truly done what they're doing with Shadows right now in their other games, according to the mighty Keef? Can this truly be bogged down to the "you control the buttons that you press" argument, according to the Actman? Well, let's get into it. Well, obviously the short answer is,
what are you, fucking stupid?
These are just people who are either wholly uninformed, or they're that famous modern audience that I just discussed in a video last week, the types who are always the first to come out on social media and talk shit about people who are complaining, but the last to ever actually buy anything. The last to put their money where their mouth is and support the stuff that they perpetuate and enable in the industry. So basically the paying customer is saying that the product is bad and they should change the way that they run their terrible business, otherwise they will not be buying these games, and these modern audience types are glazing the companies, defending them and their mediocrity, essentially telling them to keep going, keep making games like this. The people complaining, they don't matter, keep making the same stuff that you're making, the same stuff that keeps failing year after year. They keep vocally supporting this but not actually buying the garbage that they push for, or in the case of these big content creators like the Actman, the garbage that they enable to keep on existing by not only ignoring the problems causing it to be garbage, but going as far as to ridicule and dismiss the people speaking out against it. Anyway, feel free to check out the video, link will be in the description and the top comment. I don't tend to shill my own videos, so believe me when I say that it's worth a watch if you are interested in the topic. And for that matter, I'm also leaving the Actman video in the description and top comment in case anyone is interested in that as well. So whether they're uninformed on the matter or irrelevant to the market, the issue in the end is similar. They don't know what they're talking about, or they do do, but they act as if they don't, and then they dismiss real issues in games like these and insult the people complaining about them, which only causes the online backlash surrounding these issues to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people to be drawn to the type of YouTube channels that they despise. That's why the anti-woke channels exist, basically. It's because people have gotten so sick of being just normal, regular, run-of-the-mill dudes or chicks who look at a thing and go, this is garbage. And then they see these big creators, people like the Actman, like Mighty Keef, etc. It's not just them, there's more. Basically creators that in many cases they were already following, telling them that they're retards, chuds, racist, bigots, rage farmers, or whatever other mischaracterization they've got planned for that day, for simply acknowledging bad things in bad video games. And then the funny thing is, if you really distill it down, like for example, if we go from Mighty Keef's tweet alone, which was in response to another post poking fun at the fact that in this game, in Assassin's Creed, you've got a black samurai in a relationship with a non-binary person in feudal Japan.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Like, what are you expecting to happen here? What exactly are you expecting that's going to happen here? Don't you really find it surprising that people are going to laugh at this and find that this is stupid? Like, I'm sorry, but this is stupid, and this is funny, which is the point here. When you distill it down, and you actually describe what's really going down, it's hilarious to think that people like the Mighty Keef or the Actman have any kind of leg to stand on when it comes to ridiculing people laughing at this kind of shit for being in the game in the first place. My brother, it's a non-binary person in fucking feudal Japan. This alone is more than enough. Never mind the fact that Ubisoft marketed this as a game where we're playing as Yasuke, the historically accurate legendary black samurai, adding additional weight to the kinds of things that we'll see and do in the game. But hold on that point, we're going to get back to it later in the video. These people have no leg to stand on here. They can't just roll around on social media telling people that they're rage farming because, oh, this is literally in all the other recent Assassin's Creeds, or you chose to click the gay romance button, which is funny too because nobody even mentioned the word gay in that post. It was the Actman who brought that up here. It's either a disingenuous little way to strawman it, because then it shifts the perspective away from the fact that we've got a non-binary person somehow in feudal fucking Japan, as if we didn't already go through this shit last year with Veilguard.
Here's the ginger.
Thank you.
So, I'm non-binary.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Jerry.
You know, like as if we didn't already have a clear enough message that this kind of thing is tacky as fuck, it's inelegant, it's pointless, it does nothing for representation, in fact it only makes it worse because it's utterly retarded and unfitting in this kind of setting, and it's most of all something that the overwhelming majority of people are done with. People don't want these companies to spend their time, money and resources putting contemporary political trash into video games instead of writing good stories and giving us actually interesting and cool looking allies and companions, which is precisely what's happening in Shadows. This game is offering us nothing. In all my years playing Assassin's Creed titles, this has been the weakest start of a story that I've ever seen in this franchise. And the buggiest one too, right next to Unity. Features that were established in previous games, like for example, from Origins, we got Odyssey. Odyssey used features from Origins, it refined them and then added a few more. Same with Valhalla. Used the stuff from Odyssey, refined what was there, gave us a few more. Valhalla specifically added a lot onto combat. Now I'm playing this game, all of the stuff that was added in Valhalla is fucking gone. But oh ho 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 ho, don't you worry boys, we got a non-binary character that you can romance. And a battle pass in a single player game. But we're going to get to that later in the video. I'm just wondering genuinely how many times across how many games does this have to fail for people to understand that we don't care. Like it's not even about liking it or disliking it or agreeing with it or not agreeing with it at this point. We just don't care. Make us some fucking good video games and shut the fuck up. We even had a non-binary voice actor working on Monster Hunter Wilds. Look at how many people cared when some whack-jaw popped up online saying, oh, look at all the right-wing grifter chuds promoting this game which prominently features a character voiced by a non-binary actor. Like, yes, so what? What's the problem here? What's the issue? What was supposed to happen here? Does it surprise anyone that if people keep their contemporary divisive political bullshit to themselves and just make a good game free of that kind of garbage garbage, then people are going to enjoy these games? Because this is what we've been saying. Keep the games free of ideological influence. Just make a good game, don't shove your propaganda into it, make it fun, make it creative, make it something that people, gamers can escape into instead of being hammered in the head with ideology, and chances are your game is going to do just fine. But again, this is just yet another example of these people's broken minds, how they just don't get it. They are indoctrinated by this shit. They see games as a thing that must represent them and their values, so they assume that we are only mad if a game doesn't represent us and our values. Meanwhile, all that we want is just a good fucking game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know people like John De La Rose and John F. Trent exist, and people like that Yorch Torch guy as well on Twitter. Gamers! People who are actually driven by a similar thing, where if a game has a gay character or is female-led or whatever, then they start raising their flags and banners against it, using the same tactics that the wokies do. But this is a fucking minority within this whole Gamergate situation. The vast majority of us just want this sickly mind virus bias that people have, where games must reflect their political values and ideologies, to be gone from the industry, and for unapologetic creativity and quality to make a comeback. So in this tweet mocking that cringy-ass scene where Ubisoft couldn't even bother to properly animate their characters correctly, having Yasuke ending up looking straight into the camera as if he just got done breaking the fourth wall as he kisses a non-binary they-them in feudal Japan, which totally existed, by the way. I have proof of this, my grandmother told me. The mighty Keef proclaimed, like literally all the other recent Assassin's Creeds, there is optional romance in the game, meaning you only got here by choosing to flirt with that person. And this is like an onion of bullshit. First he says that all the other recent Assassin's Creed games have this. Meanwhile, not even the most recent one had it. Assassin's Creed Mirage doesn't even have any romance options whatsoever. The only games that ever did were Odyssey and Valhalla. So no, not all the other recent like no, it's two of them, bro. Out of all of these more recent iterations of Assassin's Creed, the RPG era, as some call it, starting in Origins, only two games had romance options. And the romance options aren't a problem itself. There wasn't a backlash and utter and complete mockery of Valhalla for letting you play as a male Viking and choosing gay romance options, out of which there were plenty. I can remember 5 at least. Valhalla and Odyssey both had a lot of romance options across the board, most of which were just player sexual, so you could romance them as either the male or female protagonist. Most of these were pointless flings in one specific questline, basically one night stands. Odyssey had a mainish romance option in one of the DLCs where you even have a son, sort of, kind of. And Valhalla has one main one as well, which is Randvi, our in-game brother's wife. You can have a fling with her and hold out until the end of the game to not betray your brother's trust, or you can both cuck him. Oh man, fuck dude. Yeah, you can cuck him, you guys can cuck him. He doesn't care though, he's like, I don't care, I'm a god. You know, he becomes obsessed with being sort of a god. Sort of. You know, the god of cuck. However, none of these romance options were a random trans person or non-binary person. I shouldn't have to say this out loud. This should be something that everyone already knows. Putting these kinds of people in these settings is utterly stupid and immersion breaking. They are the lowest form of condescending virtue signaling that a company can do, because they know what they're doing. They are putting that shit in there because they know it is overt. I know activists in these studios like to try and revise history and reality by trying to normalize modern day shit in modern day ways, but again, it's tacky. It doesn't work. Like, I'm sorry man, but it just doesn't work. It's got nothing to do with being tolerant or acceptant or progressive either. It's just a fucking company, really, wanting to disingenuously score points and make money irresponsibly off of the back of people who were manipulated into being used as tokens. These companies don't actually care. Everyone should know this. If Ubisoft really cared about trans people and non-binary people, they would be putting the microtransactions for free for them at least. They'd at least have this like 100% off non-binary or trans discount thing going on, where if you were trans you could be like, hey man, I need money for my HRT, it's expensive, can I please get this glowing fire samurai armor for free? And Ubisoft would be like, well of course, we wholly support these the transgender, the LGBTQ plus IA PUK He, Age, etc. movement. We are 100% with you guys. But instead, what they've been doing for years now has been one of the most irresponsibly damaging things that companies and politicians have done. Whether you like it or not, here's the facts. All of this bullshit that people have been trying to push into entertainment and all other facets of society, such as trying to pass progressive bills or normalize things that stepped into insane territory, like for example trans competitors in female sports, just in case you don't know what I'm referring to, like if you're new to the channel. All of this shit has only gone on to damage the lives of these people by causing the world around them to be sick of hearing about their problems while having problems of their own. And when these people started getting unreasonable, like again with the female sports situation, it only made people in general start viewing them in very unfavorable ways. And when these problems started involving children, it has gone on to even radicalize some people against them. Some people are going to get mad hearing this, but I don't care. That's just the rawest version of the truth that you're going to get, and from a person who doesn't even have any inherent issue with this sort of stuff at all. Like, I could care less if you're gay or bi or trans or whatever. I only care about whether you're a good person with common sense. And a lot of good people with common sense who happen to be gay, trans, etc. have gotten caught in the crossfire of this messy culture war going on right now. One that was cultivated by companies like Ubisoft pulling shit like this. And it just is what it is. Companies don't do this because they care about this representation nonsense. They do it because it was profitable to do so. And in some cases, it ended up seeping into their studio culture. But we just don't care. When you put a non-binary character in feudal Japan or medieval Europe or colonial America, you're not going to elicit a cute little "aw, they put the representation and stuff." You're going to elicit an eye roll. And if you keep doing this in more games and more shows and more movies, you're going to elicit even more eye rolls. And if at this point it's been like 5 fucking years of the same shit, those eye rolls are not eye rolls anymore. It's people sick of it actually starting to mock and criticize it and speaking against it in general. Welcome to the real world of what's going on across the entertainment industry. We are at a point where even if the mighty Keef was right in what he said, and we had gotten a bunch of non-binary romance options in several Assassin's Creed games over the years, he would still not be able to use that as an excuse, because it would literally just be a piece of evidence of precisely the kind of stupid shit that's been making people roll their eyes across games, movies, shows, and comics for the better part of the past 4 years. And I mean 4 years at least. That's where it's been more overt, because it's been going on for a little bit longer than that. And all while the quality of that media degrades, which is the biggest fucking problem here. The media is degrading, it's becoming worse, so it creates this image that these companies are trying to replace talent and quality with progressive political nonsense fit for virtue signaling. It's like, yeah, we don't know how to tell good stories anymore, we don't know how to write good characters anymore, we don't know how to build tension anymore and direct good scenes anymore, like we don't know how to do shit. But hey, look at the non-binary character. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, your franchises are going to shit, but please write good articles about us and how progressive we are. Please praise us on social media and defend us from the chuds. Like seriously, look at Marvel stuff, for example. Look at what happened with Phase 4 of the MCU. I mean, Jesus Christ, what a biblical fuck up. I can only think of 2 decent pieces of media to come out of it. Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's because it had that nostalgia value of seeing our boys in it. At least I can speak for myself here. Like, I don't care about what happened with a spell. I don't care about Aunt May dying. No one's supposed to know who Spider-Man or Peter Parker is anymore. Like, I don't care about any of that shit at all. I only care that I got to see Tobey Maguire be my Spider-Man again. And I also care that I got to see Andrew Garfield be my second favorite Spider-Man as well, with a huge bonus from seeing Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina be the Green Goblin and Dr. Octavius again. And I guess also Deadpool 3, although I didn't really watch that movie, to be honest. I just heard some people say that it was decent, so there we go. The rest? What the fuck happened? What a monumental shit show. And look at what Disney did to Star Wars. That shit should be studied. Like, dude, I rag on Ubisoft a lot by having this massive franchise, Assassin's Creed, full of potential and ruining it, degrading the quality of these games, one game after the other, kind of just degrading its quality and not addressing the problems. But nothing can beat Disney in that racket. They actually took Star Wars, arguably the biggest cinematic franchise of all time, and they killed it. So honestly, let's just spare ourselves of this bullshit trying to pretend as if these issues don't actually matter and people are just pretending to be mad or just mocking the poor billionaire company for no reason. Like, open your eyes, look around. This is where we are at. These types of decisions are the exact same and they are leading for these products to fail. Something is obviously not working here. Why are we still blinding ourselves? Hell, not even we. If anything, this is directed at these shills. They're the ones covering their eyes and ears and clutching their access. Shit like this stands out for all the wrong reasons. It doesn't belong in this setting. And also, I mean, come on, it's Ubisoft. It's fucking Ubisoft. Like, well, do you seriously think Ubisoft cares? Does anyone actually seriously believe that Ubisoft is just being this wonderful, noble, progressive, and kind-hearted company? Are people like Keef and Actman seriously defending a fucking company that just launched this game with 4 item packs with outfits and weapons costing over $20 each? I don't know about Mighty Keef, I only ever seen this guy dropping shit takes on Twitter, but once upon a time, the Actman would be up front and center tearing Ubisoft a new asshole for this predatory out-of-touch bullshit. And the fact that now he's even incapable of doing that because it looks bad since, thanks to people like him and Keef, Assassin's Creed Shadows criticism is all being swept under the same bigoted rug. It's being misconstrued as a partisan type of issue where if you're talking shit about it, you're a bad person in some kind of way. You're one of them, one of the chuds. Instead, he has to let the issue die down a little bit first so that in a few months from now, when it's safer, he can finally drop his video talking about the bad stuff in the game like he did with Veilguard. Actman's reply, on the other hand, well, you guys can see for yourselves here. He's basically joking around like, chooses gay romance option in video game. Why would they let me do this? Which, yeah, fair enough, as a joke it is pretty funny. It's kinda like, oh man, how could the developers let me be gay?
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
But as an argument, it's just more disingenuous shit missing the point as usual. And again, the gay part, I don't know where he got it from since it wasn't in the post. I think the Actman needs to be very careful with his words here, honestly. He might end up being cancelled by the wokies that he's so afraid of by misgendering that non-binary dude with the assumption that he is another man. But it's the tired old misconception of the you control the buttons that you press type of narrative, which, yeah, fair enough, you do control the buttons that you press, and in any other game where it's legit, I would defend this argument. For example, if a sudden mob rose up complaining about the original Mass Effect trilogy and our ability to pick same-sex romance options, I would agree with it, because yeah, those options are just romance options for a game. They're not trying to be nor do anything else. They're not trying to shove contemporary political divisive dogshit into the games, and they're not being a replacement for good writing, storytelling, characters, and general gameplay. It's literally just options to romance in a fantastic game that is not trying to do anything other than tell a good story. That's why this as an argument is just some bullshit strawman. It implies that these situations are the same, that it's just about a normal gay romance option in a normal video game. But that's not what we have here with Ubisoft in general, as the quality of their games degrade and the virtue signaling increases. Again, I will repeat, virtue signaling, representation, progressive ideology bullshit is not a replacement for good storytelling, good writing, good gameplay, good everything else. You want to do like Baldur's Gate 3 and make a fantastic game first and then sprinkle it in a little bit afterwards? Sure, go for it, fuck it. But Ubisoft and many other companies, like BioWare last year and Veilguard, are doing the exact opposite. The ideology is the number one thing at the forefront of their thoughts. Making a good game is the last. But we already went over that just now, so instead I want to ask another question. Is this argument of controlling the buttons we press even any good in general? Would this shit ever actually work in reverse, for example? Like, instead of using it in defense of the inclusion and romance of a symbol of radical left-wing progressive politics, would it also apply if a game included and allowed for the romancing of a symbol of radical right-wing conservative politics? Would people actually allow that to happen and just say, hey man, you control the buttons that you press, just don't press those buttons? Because I don't think so. Earlier this year we saw the argument come up again began, for example, when the whole temple destruction thing came up, where some people were finding it very disrespectful and careless that players could completely destroy religious shrines and altars in Assassin's Creed Shadows. At the time, I didn't really care that much, I thought it was a bit exaggerative. Then Shohei Kondo made a video explaining that that mirror, the centerpiece of the shrine, is like a Christian cross in equivalence, and people cannot destroy those in the other Assassin's Creed games. So I dusted off my copy of Valhalla and I went to check it out. While we do have specific side content that we can do, such as monastery raids, where we invade a Christian monastery, steal their resources, kill the soldiers, and set fire to the buildings, we can't actually do any damage to them outside of these activities, except for breaking glass windows. And even in these activities, we can never destroy any Christian altars with crosses. We can't even break anything at all in the interiors of these churches, except for vases and random boxes. And of course, in Mirage, you can't go and pillage any mosques for any reason either. So while I do understand that we control the buttons that we press, this argument doesn't answer for the fact that a deliberate decision was made by the developers to restrict the possibility of desecrating religiously significant sites in previous Assassin's Creed games, but allowed to do it in Assassin's Creed Shadows. By the way, this was actually brought up by another shill in another post, and look at what he said. POC is now a blanket no-go for them, and then they blame people for calling them racist, not to mention the newfound talking point about disrespecting Japan's religions, but somehow they were mad they couldn't trash mosques in Baghdad in Mirage 2 years ago. Don't you just fucking love these shills with thousands of followers on X from posting random shit that they find elsewhere on the internet? But then you go on their YouTube accounts and despite having a huge presence online, despite posting regularly, despite having a huge boost from Twitter, from dozens of thousands of followers and engagement, from years of activity, they still only have like 3,000 subscribers. Because they've got nothing interesting or valuable to say whatsoever. They just exist as corporate mouthpieces. They're here to push a product and then wait for the next product to push. We are rewriting history now. People like this went back to Mirage to get a gotcha on the supposed chuds who don't care about Japanese religion and culture, many of which are Japanese themselves, by the way, but you know how these people are. They fake these virtuous personalities, but in reality, the only thing virtuous about them is the rate at which they're capable of spouting bullshit. Basically, just shut up and consume the product. If you say a product is bad or disrespectful to a culture, then you're just a racist. Even when it's got nothing to do with race. I mean, in this case, what are we even talking about? We're talking about destructible items of religious significance. Why is it racist? Oh yeah, of course, because the main character is black, right? Isn't this wonderful? Apparently this is all game companies have to do. Get a playable person of color in your game, and then you cake it with as much inexcusable shit as you want. Anytime someone says a peep, people like this guy or shill potato will come out and call them racist to shut down or dismiss criticism. Brilliant game plan. Disney loves to use it as well. As I was saying, morons like this went back to Mirage to get a gotcha by showing off some footage destroying a mosque and then make a post like, "It's literally the same in all recent Assassin's Creeds." But then when they saw that they couldn't do it, they just made some shit up about all these people complaining about these things in Shadows having been around in 2023, complaining that mosques weren't destructible. I mean, hey, if you can't beat them, bullshit them. I mean, what can even be done here? All I can really say is my last batch of ibuprofen has just run out dealing with all of this braindead shit, so I'm gonna need to buy another one. So please like the video and subscribe, okay guys? Please, I need some drugs. So, what was I talking about? Oh right, the you control the buttons that you press argument. Let's just stop pretending that this is a goddamn argument. We just went through years of an annoying ass cancel culture, monitoring and censoring all kinds of shit that some pussy or some Karen deemed to be inappropriate or hurtful or insensitive or prejudiced or wrong in some way, shape or form. If there was anything at all in these games that represented or could be misconstrued as something that appealed to radical right-wing conservative shit, even if it wasn't that way, but if it could just be misconstrued as that, it would get removed on the spot. Suddenly controlling the buttons you press would no longer be an acceptable argument. Put a fucking Tesla Cybertruck in a video game and see how many of these people are going to control the buttons that they press, instead of trying to cancel the game or hell, try to vandalize the studio headquarters. We don't even need hypotheticals when we have practical examples, like what happened with Hogwarts Legacy. How many people controlled the buttons that they press, instead of harassing people playing the game, to the point of having websites tracking people playing the game on stream so that they could go in there and attack them. The hypocrisy and ignorance on display here is insane. In reality, this argument doesn't work. It's not an argument, it's just some bullshit. So to backtrack a bit, the optional argument is fine when it fits and we have something that is truly just optional at its core without any other implications involved or weird shit. And I really can't help but notice all the weird shit attached to shadows. I've spoken about some of it before in previous videos, and this one is going on pretty long already, so for the interest of time, I'm going to focus on two main things, one of which we just went over, which is, while yes, we do control the buttons that we press, there are things in video games that you will never see, not even optionally, because there's always lines that companies don't cross. While in a game like Mafia 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, we can come across members of the KKK and blast them, we aren't going to be seeing games letting us optionally join that Oh my god, I'm just imagining a game doing that, like actually giving us that option, like, hey, you like to join us, boy? And then the little dialogue check comes up like, yes, I do. That game would get cancelled before 3 o'clock. Anyway, sorry, back to it. We're not going to be seeing games letting us optionally join that faction and go do what that faction does. And sometimes similar things come up and people's arguments usually are, well, why would you ever choose to do that? Why would you ever want to do it anyway? And you know, fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just a game, it's fiction, and people shouldn't be taking it too seriously. But if we are going to be taking it seriously for some cases, then why not take it seriously for others? So basically the question I would ask in return is, why would you ever want to destroy a religious Japanese shrine? Again, some things are inappropriate and they cross certain lines. For you as an individual player, those may not be lines that you want and you would rather have boundless interactivity. However, we must also take into account that these companies are huge businesses. They are held to certain standards. They have certain images to maintain, and they also possess a certain level of responsibility. While I don't believe that this responsibility should extend itself to making their games have to be used as political propaganda tools for re-education or other cringy-ass bullshit like social impact, I do understand that this responsibility extends itself at least to the minimal degree of not having borderline offensive content in the games when selling itself to such a wide audience and representing such a big brand. So with that said, why the fuck would Ubisoft restrict such behaviors in past games but allow them in Shadows? It even goes well beyond that. For example, why are we able to romance a prominent historical figure as Yasuke, a character that Ubisoft advertised as a prominent, historically accurate, legendary black samurai? Oichi is Oda Nobunaga's sister. She is a beloved figure in Japan and one known for her loyalty to her husband, to the point where she died for him. Meanwhile, in Assassin's Creed Shadows, she can just cuck him by banging Yasuke. Like, I'm sorry fellas, but this weak-ass you control the buttons bullshit is not going to work here. Someone else also said that the game has a canon mode, so people can just use that and then supposedly the game will proceed in its own story's canonic way, meaning that story decisions and other options such as banging Oichi may not come to pass unless Ubisoft made it canon, of course. None of this shit matters here. Like, I am sorry, but no, we are way past this it's optional or it's avoidable nonsense here. Put that crap aside, drop your biases, and actually tackle the real question here. Why the fuck did Ubisoft do this when they have never done this kind of shit before? The content is still in the game, and the vast majority of players are not using canon mode. Nobody wants to use canon mode. Newsflash, nobody wants to use a thing that limits their choices in a supposed RPG. In fact, the canon mode only makes the situation worse because it shows that Ubisoft truly has this mentality that yes, this is a historically accurate game. These things still exist in the game. Yasuke is still a confirmed samurai, non-binary people still exist in feudal Japan, and Oichi still wants that BBC. It's just that you, as the player, cannot choose to do so because you're playing in canon mode, where this event did not happen because Yasuke was an honorable samurai who said that no, I will not bang you, Oichi, for you are my lord's sister. Ubisoft has obviously always played fast and loose with historical events in these video games, but that's the beauty of it. These games were always fiction first and history second. The way Ubisoft worked historical events and figures into the stories of these games was always done very well and respectfully. Basically, if there was a certain date that someone died and they could work that together with the Templar plot and make Ezio and therefore us, the player, be the one that kills them, then they went for it, and nobody better than I, because there's no disrespect or twisting of historical events taking place, and Ezio, along with every other main character, has always been treated as purely fictional. I see some people coping and posting that Assassin's Creed was never historically accurate, as if to get a gotcha on us, but they're not even paying attention. That's our argument. Assassin's Creed loosely based itself in history to use it as a unique and interesting element in its storytelling, and it worked like a goddamn charm even, because it was always cool to see these cities in the past and interact with some of the characters that we had read about, or that were straight up famous, like Leonardo da Vinci, George Washington, Napoleon, etc. However, you know, we weren't allowed to bang Leonardo da Vinci or raw dog George Washington's wife, much less being able to do that with a main character that was advertised as the first playable character in Assassin's Creed history that was actually a real person. And doubling down on it, that it's the historically accurate legendary Black Samurai. This is how the game was advertised. This was Ubisoft's announcement. They may have dialed it down afterwards because of huge backlashes, ending up in people, even historians, reaching out and telling them that no, they can't just make that claim when in fact there is no evidence whatsoever of Yasuke having been samurai, as well as other backlashes because of them getting a bunch of stuff wrong in those trailers, but that original intent is there regardless and hasn't changed. You know, back in Assassin's Creed Rogue, we play as an assassin who came to Lisbon, Portugal, in 1755. Any Portuguese viewers will immediately recognize that date. It is the date of the Great Earthquake that completely destroyed Lisbon, our capital. The death and destruction was insane, and in Assassin's Creed Rogue, we, the player, are the ones who caused that destruction in-game by activating an ancient civilization mechanism under the city, causing the earthquake. It was never an issue here. People didn't get up in arms about it because it was handled well and respectfully. There is no disrespect intended with it. The main character is left utterly shattered by guilt. In fact, it's what makes him switch to the Templar side. He didn't celebrate it or make light of it with cringy-ass retarded Marvel writing, for example. The assassin leaders are also left shocked by what happened. While a significant date of a horrendous event in Portuguese history was used as a setting for an Assassin's Creed video game, it was okay, because Assassin's Creed knew how to play with history while paying respect to the country and culture in question, while also making it cool, fun, or interesting to the player. In which of these boxes does rewriting history fit into? In which of these boxes does banging Oda Nobunaga's sister fit into exactly as well? In which of these boxes does destroying shrines fit into? In which of these boxes does using Chinese architecture for buildings in Japan and other cultural and historical inaccuracies fit into? All of those fucking inconsistencies after the video that many Japanese people pointed out in their own videos, which of these boxes exactly do they fit into? Are they fun, cool, or interesting to the player? Because I can't figure it out. Oh yeah, wait, they don't fit into actually any of them, and to add insult to injury, we also have this marketing talking point of first historical protagonist and how he really existed and this is his story. Like, get the fuck out of here with these excuses and the constant scapegoating, the constant manipulation of the narrative, this constant dismissiveness of any criticism and genuine issues as nothing but blatant racism or rage bait or whatever else. This is why you lose. This is why this company sinks. You don't listen. You just dismiss it. You just dismiss everything and shill for the average ass substandard content in-game. You don't want to go as hard as some other people do? That's fine. Don't. But what you shouldn't do either is defend this indefensible ass company. I mean, Jesus, we even have people defending the microtransactions and the battle pass in it now, because the battle pass is free to access and the microtransactions are optional to buy. But what is this? What is going on with these people and Assassin's Creed Shadows? Someone has to study this link, because I'm amazed at what I've been seeing. The retardation is... it's amazing. This is a single-player game. There shouldn't be live service mechanics in a single-player game. This is why these games are so shit, because the developers have these systems built into them. A single-player game, at its core, does not play like a live service. The types of experience are different. The way you reward the player is different. The way progression works is different. The way a story is structured and told is different. The way that you make side quests is different. If you bring live service mechanics into a single-player game, you are altering that core experience because the devs have to make sure that you are engaging with these live service mechanics. Instead of being rewarded normally through normal in-game content, like, oh, I don't know, nicely tailored and directed side quests and dungeon type of locations with a nice reward at the end, we have to go the Odyssey route and bloat the fucking game full of shitty, vapid, repeatable side quests so that the player can keep grinding and grinding and grinding and going up the goddamn Battle Pass rankings, or tiers, or whatever the fuck they call them. How is it so difficult to understand this? How are morons like this defending it? Then of course these games keep getting worse and worse and worse. Why the fuck wouldn't they? Ubisoft cakes their games with this garbage, they fail, and then you look around and who's talking about why they failed? People that the media and the shills have painted as bigots and losers and racists and retards. Meanwhile, where are the big content creators? Well, let's see. Guys like Joe Raptor are just covering the latest bit of loot. He doesn't really give a shit as long as he's got his access, he's good. Back in the day when he was starting out, he would sometimes speak about these things. Like I remember him talking about not liking the Heka chests in Origins, but now he's just a corporate mouthpiece showing off the brand new glowing piss-stained armors and telling you how it's worth it because it looks really cool. At most, he may tell you that maybe it's not so worth it if it's like $20 each, but he's not going to make a hard, honest stance against it because he can't. Guys like the Actman can even make a fucking video calling predatory monetization out in these games because of course he can't afford to look like he's on our side by making negative videos. Oh, it's not optically attractive. And guys like this fucking jewel of intelligence are so stupid that they actively do more damage by saying that this is actually totally cool, and people complaining are just brain-dead rage baiters crying online. And the microtransactions, aka content that Ubisoft cuts out of the game to put up on sale for $20 immediately at launch, and by the way, that's $20 each, that's $80 for all of them, instead of again making it rewards for the players to engage with meaningfully in the game, are optional. Hey man, you control the buttons that you press, man. Ubisoft isn't forcing you to spend money like a moron. You're only a moron if you press the buttons that you shouldn't be pressing. At this point, the thing I'm most excited about is to see how are they going to spin it when Ubisoft does what they did in Valhalla, where they started re-releasing the same armors that they already charged for in different colors in the same fucking prices. They're gonna be looking like Tuco Salamanca.
Tight, yeah! Blue, yellow, pink! Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
Come on guys, is it really any surprise at all how fucked everything is when this is what we have? At the end of the day, you end up with a flop on your hands, and according to all the shills and pussies around you, the games were total bangers and they just failed because of the online hate campaigns. Don't look at us, Mr. Investors. It wasn't us, it was the chuds. They are all alt-right. They see a black man and they lose it. What? No, don't look at all those successful games with black characters in it. No, just trust us. It's not our blatant disrespect for a culture, it's not our blatant carelessness nor our blatant virtue signaling, it's not our blatant mediocrity and our blatant stupidity in finessing a single-player experience into a live service one, and it's also not our dogshit writing, directing, storytelling, and presentation. It's not at all that this game needed another year in the oven and some new creative direction, let alone the few months between November and March already that it was already delayed for, and it's not at all the total inability to listen to feedback for the past 7 or 8 years telling us to stop rushing out the same repetitive template and make something new. It's none of that, it's the chuds. And with that, I am out of here, guys. See, I wasn't supposed to rant, but it ended up happening anyway, and I didn't even get to all the stupid shit that I gathered. But for now, I'm done here. Thank you very much for watching, though. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like to help me out. If you didn't, feel free to dislike it. After all, you control the buttons that you press, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.